I am trying to get back to the Dahlias. Hey, it's Eric, and here you are at our farm in Colorado, and I'm going to show you some things about dahlias and the beautiful sacred geometry they contain, and some of the things that we do to make sure that we can dig them out at the end of the season and um, plant them again and again and again, and split them as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit about that. Behind me, not sure if you can hear it right now. Can y'all hear that? At least you can see it. These are all honeybees going wild for our fennel. But back to the dahlias. This is the first year we've planted dahlias closer to the house, and I really love them. You can see it's perfect geometry on these. And we kind of just let them do their thing. You can see previously they're where we've cut, they're the flower that keeps on giving. It's really kind of beautiful. But dahlias grow what we call our tubers. And tubers are what you can imagine as kind of like a potato or a sweet potato. They grow underground, and they're just these little, these almost like potato-like sacks of this dense plant matter that grows underground, and they have this thing called a crown. So underneath these large green plants, there's a bunch of little individual bulbs, but we call them tubers, and they are edible. And they connect to a centerpiece called the crown. Now, each tuber needs to be connected to the crown in order for it to produce what we see as a dahlia plant. And if it doesn't, then it's just kind of the tuber, and we compost those. We haven't eaten them, but these are a pretty spectacular plant. We dig them out in the fall, and we'll split them up, usually when we're looking for a winter activity, and making sure that each tuber that we split has a piece of the crown. We can basically multiply the dahlia plant over and over and over again. It's the plant that keeps on giving, and similar to all parts of nature, through seeds, which you can see are forming right here. These dahlias really do well as far as being able to share with friends and family. And so one of the things we do here at the farm is not only use these in bouquets, but we love to give people a piece of the farm in the form of a tuber. And so if you're curious about that anymore, there's a few different links regarding tubers that I'll put down below. But storing them in the winter is relatively simple. You can store them in a few different pieces of, I guess, the earth, peat moss, vermiculite, wood shavings. We've stored them a few different ways, making sure that they're at about 35 to 40 degrees. And then when you want them to wake up in the early spring, slowly bringing them into spaces where they can acclimate and slowly wake up, if you will. We've been successful in overwintering dahlias here at the farm, and I believe we're zone 6B. And I've heard of people in Chicago and in other colder cities, we'll say, being able to overwinter their dahlias. And it's quite simple to do, making sure that it's in an area that has nice moisture drainage. So during the winter when it snows and it melts, the moisture can drain away from the tubers. And then it's going to be important to mulch it pretty heavily. I'd say 1 foot to 2 feet of mulch, and then tarp it on top of that. Kind of a set it and forget it. Set it to bed, making sure that it's, buried nice and deep, that it's not staying wet, so that if there's a freeze and a thaw, that the tubers aren't going to get all mushy and gross. And it's fun to experiment with. So maybe pick a spot in your garden that's a little bit warmer. I'm going to show you this as an example. This wall faces south this way, which you can see everything is very dense right now. And these rocks, since they're darker, collect that heat. So this really starts to grow earlier in the season, but also a lot of plants that generally don't grow well in Colorado do really great here because this area stays warm. Even if it's 25 degrees and sunny outside, this tends to stay warmer because that heat energy that absorbs all the day, and then it permeates through the ground at night and then is slowly released, and then the cycle continues in the winter. So try it out. Gardening's an experiment. I could talk all day about dahlias and really about anything in the garden, but I hope you learned something.